For attending this afternoon. My name is Brett Corbin. I'm a product lead for General Technologies. I'm actually based out of Adelaide, South Australia, and some of my other product managers are also based out of Australia as well. We do have some here in the US, so we are kind of from all over the place. Today I wanted to have a conversation around our SMS tool and some changes we've made to the email templating system. We'll do some demos and stuff as well. Happy for you to have questions as we go through, but there'll also be time at the end for questions as well. So, I was wondering if I should get everyone to do a bit of a dance or something just to wake up after lunch. Everyone's been having a bit of a rest, which is really good, but we'll get stuck into it. So as we know, people missing appointments or court hearings or check-ins for supervision and stuff always ends up with a flow-on effect. There's always a lot of extra work that needs to happen, matters need to be rescheduled, there's warrants issued, a range of things that can happen. But having people attend on time and at the right place is really important. So over a number of years, a number of studies and experiments have happened around the use of SMS. So in New York City, an experiment they performed around failure to appear, they saw a reduction by about 13 to 26% of people failing to appear for court hearings, which for them in a big courtroom meant thousands of hearings that actually happened as opposed to being missed and then needing to do a warrant or something like that after that. Similarly, the Santa Clara Public Defender, they did an experiment to send out court hearing reminders, and that reduced arrest warrants by about 20%. So again, a massive impact by just sending a reminder to someone that they need to be at court at a particular time on a particular day. 12 other studies also found a decrease between 11 and 60% in those failures to appear, and that was across a number of different courts and jurisdictions. And in Arkansas, where they had a community corrections study, SMS check-in reminders helped people reduce missing appointments by about 30%. So just a very simple, quick SMS reminder at the right time was helping a lot of people remember to come to their appointments, which has a massive flow on to the rest of the justice system as well. So why communication matters? So the missed hearings really disrupt court operations and delay justice. And it's not just around the victims, it's also the other people that are also involved. So there's a lot of time and effort spent on the enforcement when people miss hearings that could be better spent elsewhere in the rest of the justice sector. Victims and witnesses and defendants really benefit from the timely and consistent hearings and also updates, so they're aware of what is happening in their matter. And we'll do a couple of examples later of sending a notification to a victim automatically from the system when an event occurs. So poor communication generally leads to missed hearings, which means extra work and lower confidence collectively across the justice sector. So with some nudging and some reminders to people early on, we can really make an impact on that. So the SMS messaging in eSeries. So it's a two-way texting and it's directly available within inside eSeries. So you don't have to go to a separate tool, you're not doing it from your own mobiles or anything like that. It's a tool directly built into eSeries that can both send and then also receive and show messages. All the messages get logged on the case and you can now view all that information, see when it went out, see if it was sent and received, at any time you received a message back. We can also use templates and use those templates and use business rules and automation to automate a lot of these processes. It doesn't have to be a person manually sending the message. You can actually do this as part of an automation process that would send out reminders for everyone. 2 days' time, you've got your hearing scheduled, and it can be scheduled and kind of like set and forget. And then it's also secure and permission control. So that's just an example, and we'll see it in a system in a minute, of basically a message history. So on the left-hand side of that screenshot, we've got all the people that we're sending a message to, and on the right-hand side, the usual kind of SMS kind of thread that you're used to seeing. The messages going out and anything that's been received. With those messages on the right, we also, if it's related to a case in particular, we can relate the case number to it as well. We can also identify if this mobile number has been matched to multiple people. So one of the things that we experience a lot is reuse of mobile phone numbers, or people's names don't match correctly and we've got 57 versions of the same person in the system. This gives you a warning to say that there is multiple people with this number associated with them. So some of the benefits of the SMS. So you've got faster reach. Generally text messages are noticed more quickly than either email or voicemails. So I'm sure if you picked up your phone right now, you probably don't have too many text messages you haven't read, but you've probably got about 4,000 emails that you haven't read. So the research has found that text messages are being read faster than others. It'll be interesting to see when we go to TikTok and Snapchat whether that will be any better. Might be a demographic thing. It also has the reduced failures to appear, so those reminders have been proven to improve attendance rates inside eCourt. Consistent documentation, or every message has been logged in the system, so you know not only if you sent out a paper notice or things like that, but you'll also be able to see in the system when an SMS went or an email went out to these people, and you can use that in court if you need to just prove, we did notify you on this date and this date and this date, you didn't appear, and you can move on. Also, it helps keep people on track. So they don't have to just be for things like SMS reminders. They could be if people are on a payment plan and you want to send them a reminder that a payment's going to be due in a couple of days, you can do it there. For people on probation, if they've got appointments to attend to, you can put that in there as well so they don't miss any of their check-ins. And also being able to proactively notify victims and witnesses. So one of the important jobs of the justice sector is actually timely communication, especially with victims around things that are happening in the matter. And SMS is generally a good way to advise them that something is happening on a matter. And we'll see that in a minute where we'll do a demo. I've got Sahaj will be playing my victim, and we'll be sending him a notification. So before we get into the demo, there's some practical notes. So one of them was around pricing. So it is a paid service to use the SMS feature, and the usage, the pricing is based on usage. So the more you use, the lower the value becomes for each one. But there's also a number of different tiers you can do based on how many text messages you think you'll be sending in a period of time. And if you want to understand more, you can either speak to a salesperson or your customer experience rep, and they'll be able to tell you some more information about the different pricing. They'll generally have some questions about, when you might want to send them, how many cases you do, things like that, so they can give you a bit of an idea of how many messages you might send and what the cost might be. Weirdly, SMSs are still basically charged at 140 odd characters, because that's what it was decades ago, and it still is, and that's basically how the carrier companies still price it, and that's what our price is based on as well. In relation to compliance, so US carriers require what's called an ATP 10 DLC registration. We'll manage that, so General would manage that on your behalf. Basically, the ATP is basically an application to a person. And this is the government's way of saying we don't want carriers to spam people or have people spam stuff out of their application. There's a process you have to go through to get registered so that you can actually send SMS messages out from an application directly to people. So there is a registration process that all the carriers make you do, which can be quite involved, but there's usually a set criteria and information that you need to provide beforehand. And we'll help you through that if you choose to go with the SMS. Opt-out. Again, this is related to the ATP 10DLC registration. You need to provide a way for people to opt out of receiving these messages. And usually that will be they'll send a stop message back or something like that. And when they do that, at that point, no longer supposed to be sending them. There can be penalties and stuff imposed if you do still continue to send messages to people who have opt-out. So again, built into the process both in our eSeries product, but also the carrier that we use as well. In relation to permissions, because it's fully integrated with eSeries, you can control permissions. You can control permissions about who can see SMS messages. You can also control permissions about if you're going to use certain templates, who can use those templates as well. So we're going to do a bit of a demo. One, you're going to see me send an SMS, which will just be a ad hoc message that I want to send out to someone. We'll then do a hearing notice reminder workflow where I'll schedule an event, and that actively scheduling event will kick off a workflow which will then send out a message, and then we'll show the SMS message history inside the application. So let me just jump over to the right system. So here we are on a case, can be any case, prosecutor, court, supervision, it doesn't matter. And what I've got here, and I've added to my header here, is just a little SMS widget. From here, I can send an SMS message either using a template, so we might have certain templates that you set up, you only want your staff to only send a message that follows this template, or you may say you want to do it as a custom message. So I'm just going to do it as a custom message, and I'm just going to choose Sahaj's number. And we'll just see if he enjoyed his lunch today. So, with any luck, the system has said that has been sent off. And Sahaj with his...
I got the text.
So I can also have a look at that in my system here. So I've just gone to a view of all the messages that have been sent to Sahaj. So basically you can see a backwards and forwards that we've had at different times. And if Sahaj maybe answers that question, and I'll just reply, let's see what we ended up with. It does take a little while to come back. It's got to go through our provider, it's then going to hit our server, and then we've got to put it into the system. Okay. Yes, and then you were first in line. Wow, wait, that means you went to the session. So, the responses from your parties can come back directly into the system and will be associated with the phone number that we have recorded for him. But it's all in the one system. We can see that entire flow of everything that's happened. This view is showing me the SMS messages specific to just this case. So I sent him a message from this case, it knows it was from this one. I've also sent a previous message to a different party on this case, and I can see that here as well. We will show you a different view in a second where you can kind of see all messages that have happened throughout the system.
So you just said that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Does it notify you somehow that the person responded back?
Not by default, but you can create a workflow that would do that. It's a matter of who you want to notify from that.
And did you say that, let's say your colleagues has his number all over the places, many cases, right? So will that reply somehow get into other cases unrelated to this one?
The reply effectively gets related to all, because it's related to the phone number. And that phone number, if Sahaj is on multiple cases, is across all of those cases as well. So when Sahaj replies, we don't really know which case he's replying to. It's just one of the cases. So yes, the replies will be noted that, the messages on the right-hand side will say all of the messages that we've ever sent to Sahaj, regardless of the case. But it will either say here whether the message we sent going as an outbound message, was it related to this case or related to a different case? So when you're looking at it, you can see. Because if you just get an email, a phone call, a text message, you don't always know what it's related to. An email might show a name or a case number, but a lot of the text messages don't. It's quite informal kind of way of responding to people, they won't always put a case number on there. So we just show you every message related to the phone number. Start.
Sorry, when you said they have an opt-out option,
Yeah.
does it now get recorded into the system when they opt out of that SMS?
So with the workflow, yes, we have to make a change to their email record profile to basically say they've opted out. With the automated messages though, it's something you have to check for. So if you're automating a process and you want to send emails, SMSs out to all of them, you have to check to make sure they haven't opted out beforehand. Someone else got a question? Yep.
Can you turn off the ability for them to reply and only use that as a one way from, like, say me, if I just want to use it as a notification?
Technically you can, but according to the ATP 10 DLC stuff, you're not allowed to, because you have to do the stop. You have to allow them to do that. They really should be able to do a stop and a resume, so you can't really stop it incoming. Someone else had a question? Yes.
So can you send the same message to multiple people on the case?
Not from this screen, but I'll show you a little bit later when we're showing some of the email stuff, that you can actually send a bulk SMS or a bulk email to people as well. Yeah.
Is there any filtration for bad words or things like that when they're coming back through?
Not at the moment. You're expecting a fair bit of that?
I've seen it.
You've seen it? Yeah.
Works on the money side.
It's always about the money.
The number that you're sending from that short code, is that shared by across all the agencies?
At the moment, yes. The outgoing number is the same number for everything coming out of the system. We are looking at, do we get to a point where we have the ability to have certain numbers for, and it might be a geographical region, or it could be a group of matters or a matter type, or potentially related to a particular attorney. If you've got a certain case assignment or attorney assignment on a case, do you have a separate number from that? But at the moment it's just the one number, and all messages go out from that one number for your system. But someone else's system has a different outgoing number.
And do you take confidential cases into consideration?
That would be a part of the workflow. So if your workflow didn't want to send out messages for a confidential case, it would be a part of the workflow logic to say don't do it for that one. Alright, so moving on. So the second example here is I've effectively got a workflow, and this workflow has a trigger that I've got a scheduled event is inserted onto a case, and the case happens to be a prosecution case. With that, it's just going to call a simple rule, and the rule is just going to send a notification based on a template. And I've told it to use a particular template. So this prosecution victims hearing notification template is the one it's going to use to send out the message. So let me just go back to that case again. I'm just going to add a quick hearing to this matter. So with that hearing scheduled, that workflow will trigger and automatically send out a message. So hopefully, if I go to my SMS case view now, and I go and have a look at Sahaj again, we've now got this new message that's automatically happened. And hopefully Sahaj has it on his phone as well, which basically just says, a new court hearing has been scheduled at a particular date, at a particular time. So the use case for this is if you need to notify victims of certain activities that are happening on the system, this is a way that you could automate that notification going out, that if it's based off the scheduling of a hearing, lodgement of a document, things like that. You can have the trigger set up to just listen for that every time it happens, send out an SMS to all the victims on that matter, and you don't have to do any of the manual work in relation to that anymore. Questions?
So piggybacking off of that hearing notification to the victims, can they also get notified that their Marx's law and rights, when the case is filed, can that workflow be implemented into the system?
I don't see why not. as long as you've got the victim's details beforehand. With notify, and again back to that HTTP 10 DLC, you're really supposed to get approval that you can start sending SMSs to begin with. So you just receiving a victim's phone number from anywhere isn't enough because you haven't actually had the authorization to send them an SMS yet. So according to the legislation, you're really actually supposed to get them to opt into receiving SMS messages. Once they have though, yes, off you go. You can send them and trigger them on basically anything you want to trigger them on. So that was just an example of just a simple workflow that triggered as soon as an event happened, the messages went out and off they went. But this could be a scheduled thing that happens at the end of an evening for 2 days' time. Send out everyone who's got a hearing 2 days from now. This is the message I want to send, and off you go. The last bit in relation to the SMS is what we call the SMS manager, and this is a view that basically shows all SMS messages across every case. So if you do need to see stuff that is coming in, this is a way to see it. So this is just a whole list of every message that has ever happened. It shows the message, and then it also shows you which case number it was related to, gives you a link off to that case, and you can kind of jump out to that case really easily. You can search by a name or a phone number on things like that, just try and filter the list down, because once you've got a lot of phone numbers in here, it's just a very big long list of things. And we can also show any messages that don't get delivered. So you might have a number, you think you've sent it out, but at the other end it ends up being it's not a real phone number. The system will return back and say, actually, we couldn't send it, it wasn't a real phone number. So that's most of SMS.
Is there a way can you export your messages? Like say a witness or victim discloses information in the case, you have to add it to your discovery. Can you export that as like a PDF?
You could. You could basically create a search that looks through these SMS messages, because everything is stored in the system, as with pretty much everything we do in E-Series. It's all in the log files and everything like that, so you could have a search if you need to do that, and then you can export the search with the messages that went through.
I can really see the bottom of the screen. Can you actually send a message right from that screen?
You can actually do a reply from this screen as well, if you need to. And again, that's going to come down to the particular workflows that you choose, whether you want someone to go into a case and doing it from the widget that's there, especially if you want to enforce them to only use specific templates, and you don't want them to be able to send just a custom message. But that's going to come down to the workflows of your organisation, of which way you want to go.
And the requirement from my customer is the first message to be the consent for them to opt in. Is that also possible?
You possibly could. So you possibly could send the first one and say this is a way to do an opt-in. There's a little bit of grey around some of that opt-in stuff, depending on which way you read it. They really want you to have the opt-in verbal agreement before you actually ever send anything. Quite often, what you'll see and what we've done at the bottom of this message here is we've basically got the reply stop to stop receiving a notification, because it's kind of a best practice to tell people that they can opt out of it, but they quite like you to opt in beforehand. There are some exceptions, like if you're using an SMS only for like your one-time code for logging into your banking app or something like that, they have different rules for that, but for these type of messages, they want people opting in first.
What version of eCourt does this work?
So this worked from 2025-05. So it's been out for about 6 months.
And
So,
can you use your own numbers for the sender?
not at the moment. So when you say you want to sign up for it, we allocate, generate a number for you in your geographic location, so it has the right area code, but it's a number that basically our provider owns, as opposed to one that you own.
Were you using a long number or are you using a short number?
A long number, so 10-digit one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't there a limit how much fax you can send on a long number?
Not that I'm aware of yet. but maybe. Because it splits a single message, it splits a long message into 140 character messages, and I think there is a limit, but it's probably about 5,000 characters.
No, the sender is a short one, right? It's a short long. The sending number? Are they long code or short code?
I'm pretty sure it's a long code.
Long code. I thought I thought like all these like mobile companies actually built these out for spam getting long code.
Not at the moment. Behind the scenes we use Twilio, and they're still allowing us to use those. Yeah. Any other questions? Sorry? Yep.
Just really quick, how do you obtain your consent to text?
That's always the hard part. Yes, and do you have, and it's going to be different for every organisation about how you get your information to begin with. So for some of them, a person may be there and available to you, and you can ask them, can I now do this from SMS going forward? Might be the first phone call, it might be the first time they'll encounter it, somewhere in that process. Ultimately, as a justice agency, we kind of want to go, well, this is in the benefit of justice, but according to the carriers, we're the same as anyone else, so we really have to get that consent to begin with. Yeah. All right. So we're going to switch now. If I can get back to the right screen. And talk a little bit about email messaging. So email messaging we've had in E-Series forever and a day. But we've added a new widget to be able to send email messages, make it a little bit more consistent, and do better tracking of those email messages, plus the ability to add documents both on the case and a document that you might have not stored on the case but you still want to send out. So it's again where you work, so you can launch this from the case record or from the results of a search, and that's how you can do a bulk email to multiple people. It works with templates, so I'm going to end up showing you our template tool, but your template is effectively a way to make sure every message that goes out matches your policy and is consistent. You don't want 40 people all trying to write a message and having 40 different variants of that message. So you can set up one template and everyone can use it. That template can also include information about the case. So it could include the case number, case name, it could include the scheduled events, it could include document names, whatever you need to can be built into those templates as well. So if anyone who's ever built a document template, similar kind of concept with these email templates as well. With the attachments, you can either send attachments to documents that are actually on the case, or you can send a local file. So you might have an information sheet, or you might have something that's translated into 10 different languages that you need to provide out to people. You don't usually have those on your case record, but they'll be on your local file system or something. You can now attach those to those emails as well from directly inside the system. And then all emails are logged for auditability, kind of like everything we do. So why the templates matter? So a lot of consistency helps you with the standardised language across the agency, make sure what you're sending out is kind of approved and everyone knows what it is and it's consistent and everyone's happy with it. Makes it a bit more efficient because it reduces the time for an individual trying to work out how they should draft this message. They can just use one of the pre-approved templates. We can provide a lot of flexibility with templates, and they can be easily updated without code. So there's a tool we provide to make so that you can make these changes to these templates yourself, and you don't need a developer or IT people to do some of the changes. And for compliance, there's more internal compliance, again, making sure that you're always sending out the right information to the right people and including all the things that you need to include when you're sending out a communication. And the templates both work with the email and the SMSs. So it doesn't matter which tool you're using to send out this message, you can use a template to do it for both. The only thing is that with an SMS at the moment, you cannot send out an attachment with it. We don't allow that at the moment, it is just a message. Whereas with emails, you can also send out attachments as well. We are still investigating how we can send out attachments, what does that mean, because it changes pricing. Plus we're also looking at what happens if someone tries to send you an attachment as well. at the moment, again, they can only send you in a message, they can't send an attachment. So I'm going to switch over and do a couple of email demos. So we're going to start with just sending an email from an email widget. We'll then look at how we could send bulk emails and bulk SMSs to the question we had at the back, and then we'll look a little bit at the notification templates themselves. Alright. So here I am back on a case again, and we've got a new send email widget here. And again, the first thing it's going to ask for me is, do I want to send it from a template, or do I want to just send a custom message? If I want to send it from a template, it's just going to show me the list of templates that I have. Now, when I configure a template, I can configure my template based on what case types I want it to apply to, plus other conditions. So I can get quite granular on who can see what type of templates to keep the list fairly simple and easy. So you might have all of your listings people can see one group of templates, but another group of people can't see everything, or they get a different list of templates to choose from. So this one I'm just going to say I'm going to choose my email of scheduled events. It'll show me the description that has been defined for that template, and then I can say who I want to send it to. Now with my templates, I can also define what kind of person I want to send it to. Do I only want to send it to someone who's on the case? Do I want to send it to potentially anyone? I've got a control over that, or anyone who's in my directory. So I get to control who this template can be sent out to. I'm just going to send it to my ideas@journaltech email address. I can also do a CC if I wanted to. Because I said, because this template is related to a scheduled event, I need to be able to now tell her which scheduled event I'm referring to. So this is kind of like when you're doing a document or a document generation and you've got to choose a particular field to do. We can say, okay, well, which scheduled event do you want this template to show? I can also attach files that are on the case itself. So these 6 documents are actually on the record, or I can just add a file from my local file system that will get attached to the email as well. And again, you get to control with each template whether you want to allow attachments or not. So there might be some certain templates that you say, no, these should never have an attachment, so this would just not be showing on the screen if you chose that template. So I'm just going to send out that email. Hopefully that got sent out. And depending on whether my Outlook is open or not, if it's not, now you get to see all my Outlook messages. Hopefully in a second, that email should appear in this email box, or it's going to appear in my junk, one of the two. It'll get there eventually. So the email will go out, and again, it's recorded in the system as, yes, you sent an email on this date, on this time, and we've recorded all of that. The next one I'm going to show you is the ability to send a bulk email or a bulk SMS. So I've set this one up as doing a bulk email. So if I do just a simple search here, I've got a name, number of people. They currently have mainly the same email address, but I've got a range of people that I can send it to. I've now got a new action where I can either send a bulk email or a bulk SMS. So if I want to send a bulk SMS, I'd also want to make sure I've got phone numbers on this list as well. But if I just send, say I want to send a bulk email, it'll bring up a screen with those parties I want to send the email to, and now I can just send whatever the subject of the message might be. You know, the power hour is out in courtroom 1, so all of your matters have been moved to courtroom 2. Whatever it happens to be, you can do a bulk message. And you can do the same with a bulk SMS message as well to those group of people, and the whole message will go out.
Does the BC see them, or do they see each other's names across the top when you send an email?
It sends individual emails.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the last bit I wanted to show you here was the notification templates. So here is where you can build and configure all of those different templates across your organisation that you want people to use. So I think the one we showed earlier was just an email of the scheduled events. So if we're going to have a look at that template, basically for every template there's just a code and a name and a description of what that template is about. I can choose what is the notification type. Does this apply to an email or an SMS notification? Who do I want it from? So if I'm sending it from an email, I have a few different options of where it's coming from. Is it the system default, which is usually, no reply at court dot whatever? Is it actually coming from the user who's going to be sending it out? Or the script option allows you a bit more flexibility, so it might be coming out from Department 7. So just depends on who you want the email to go out from. We can define template groups, and that's just a way to categorize and help you sort things. You can add an access condition, so basically say, well, this template is only related to certain types of matters. So I could say, this case, it has to be a court case, or it has to be a prosecutor case, or it has to be a child case, or it has to be whatever, and that helps us with that filtering and making sure you only see templates that are relevant at the right time. We can also make workflow only templates. So these would be templates that would only be used when sent from a business rule and a workflow, but a user can't choose it out of the list. And again, there are use cases where you kind of want to automate a whole heap of notifications going out, but you don't want an end user just choosing that from the list. Effective froms and effective to dates if you need to, and then we've got the message itself. So when I'm doing an email, I can say whether I'm sending it as a HTML or just a text email, what's my subject going to be, and what's the body of the message going to be. And most of it is just normal text, and then there are a couple of little placeholders for certain information. So here I basically just wanted to say what is the case number, and then when I was showing all the hearings, for every event that was listed, I'm just looping over them and just showing the event time and location. And that's the message. We can also define whether we want to preview the email message before it gets sent out. So when I'm going through the widget, I've chosen my people, chosen my template, I can have it actually appear as a preview mode before I then send it out. The one I did, it just did an automatic send without me doing the preview. Define whether you can have attachments allowed or not. And if you do want attachments, you can have a condition around those attachments so that it's only showing you the documents relevant for this template. You don't want a list of 4,000 documents, you want just only the 20 that are relevant to this type of template. Whether you want to attach local files or not, if it's not, you just don't get that option in the system. And then who can this template be sent to? Can it be sent to a party on the case, a case assignment on the case, a directory person, or just anyone? And if it's a party on the case or a case assignment, you can also add an additional condition to limit that group. So maybe you only want it to be able to be sent to victims, but you don't want to be able to send it to a defendant or something. It just depends on the template itself as to how you want to do it. So you get quite a lot of control over those templates, and you can build up as many of these as you like, and then use them, whether manually sending them out from a case or as part of a workflow itself. Any questions around templates?
Can you send encrypted?
Send an encrypted message. It depends on your email provider. So some email providers will allow it, some won't. And usually that's at the system level, and all messages will be sent as an encrypted message as opposed to the individual. We at the moment don't have the way to do an individual message as an encrypted one. It would be basically all messages out of the system.
So we're using Exchange, so you filter it through Exchange, not through the print.
Yes, and that's at the SMTP server side is usually where that encryption is defined, and our link to it also says whether we're going to use the encryption or not. Any other questions about templates? Yep.
Not necessarily templates, but just like SMS, is it two-way or one-way?
Emails really at the moment are just one way. When you've defined your from address here, that will, whether it's your no reply at court dot whatever, or whether it's your personal email that's associated with this or something else. If it's your personal email, it's just going to go back to you, because that's the two. If it's your no reply, that's where it's going to go, which no one's probably looking at either. So at the moment, it currently just goes, the reply would go to whoever the from ended up being that you chose.
And does it have opt-in, opt-out?
Not for this, but you could build it in. So if you decided that for emails or something, because where you capture your email address for a person, you could potentially add something there for whether they opt in or opt out for certain types of messages.
For both SMS and email, do you get notified if they don't receive it?
For an SMS, yes, in the SMS manager, it will tell you whether they don't do it. So there was that not delivered option. Someone can go in there and check it once a day, once a week, whatever the frequency is, right? For emails, it depends on which part of it fails. So if you send it to your SMTP server and it says it's fine, we think it's gone. If your SMTP server then gets an error, we don't get that all the way back into our system. So it depends on where the failure happens as to whether the system knows about it.
And for like the workflows, if you say all officers should get the email, and 3 out of the 4 officers have an email on their directory, but the 4th doesn't, does the whole workflow fail, or do 3 get it and then you get notified with the 4th?
It would generally be the 3 would get it, and then you have something in your workflow to say, well, if I don't have an email address or something for it, what is the exception? What am I going to do with this other thing? Who do I need to notify that they need to go and manually go and do something? Yeah.
So when getting a response from the user or like a text from an end user, how does that notification show up in eCourt or in eCourt?
So let me go back to a manager. So if a message comes back, it'll appear in the manager. Now you can configure a workflow to go and notify someone, but that comes down to a workflow as to who and how you want to manage these. So do you want it to go to a central group of people who are going to look at all the SMS messages, or to something more specialised? So that's really an internal business process of where do you want these messages to go. If we get to the point where we do have multiple messages that say it's a prosecutor and we're just saying we're going back to the prosecuting attorney on it and going back to there, at that point we could have a notification to just that prosecutor, but we haven't got to that point of having the multiple numbers yet at the moment.
And second question, do you have like similar screen like this that you can view from the person? So you can see like all the messages that went on that person?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Right now, like you're seeing this from the case, right?
This was a generic one. Let me just jump back to the case. This is everything related to this case, and yes, we can also have, let's see if I've got it set up. This view will show me just the messages to just that one person. So I can either have a case view which shows me all the messages related to this case, or this one which is just basically all the messages to that number.
So if I was looking at, that person's record, is there also a way just to see what I've sent that person, like to maybe have a couple of numbers? Is there a unified way to look at that?
Not at the moment. And it would also depend on how matching has happened. Have you matched these people together? So is this Sahaj Patel and that's Sahaj Patel? If they do have different numbers, have you matched them in a different way? So at the moment we don't show. We're doing it just based off of the mobile number.
Thank you.
Yep.
Based on how we use ePost now, it's still email, and when attachment is going out, and it's not delivered, we do get an undelivered mail back associated with it. Could we have something
And where's that message going to? To your
to a department?
your no reply, whatever. Yeah. So that would still happen, but it wouldn't go back necessarily directly into the system. It goes to your Outlook, but not into the E-Series. Yeah. Yep.
If the case is closed, can the people still send a message back to the text message?
They can. Yes, they can. They can always send a message in. again, if you have a workflow that's receiving these incoming messages, you might want to say, well, if this is a closed case, we'll actually need to send that, notify someone different than what I would normally notify. Yeah. All right. So, a few best practices and guidance around SMS. Really for SMS, keep them short and clear and just stick to the essential details. No one likes getting an SMS message that scrolls off the page. That's why they don't read emails, they're too long. Use the templates because they ensure the consistency and make sure you can get compliance and consistency across all the cases and all the messages that you want to send out. Confirm the opt-in and opt-out. So as we said, really for SMSs and the legislation around sending SMS messages, you really need to get that opt-in beforehand. And while I know that a lot of people want to just do one-way messages, really to allow that stop to happen, you still need to allow that two-way communication to happen. Log everything, the system does that. The system logs all the messages that go in and out, so you can, if you don't like the default searches and things like that, you can configure your own searches as well. Use plain language, get rid of the jargon, and you would have heard that in a number of other sessions, and then the keynote earlier when I was talking about usability. Core language is not usually accessible to most people, so use language that is a little bit more accessible to your audience. So a couple of key takeaways. SMS provides fast two-way communication, and there's a full record of that in E-Series. New email widget simplifies how you can send an ad hoc or send a template message, including your ability to send attachments. The templates create consistencies, ensure you get compliance, and then they're also fairly easy to update. And together, these tools reduce missed hearings, make sure people hit their check-ins, and keep victims and witnesses informed about what's happening on their case. So any next steps, really if you're interested in the SMS or the new widget, SMS specifically, because there is a price involved, contact sales or customer experience. For the email, you can just talk to your customer experience people. So then build a small set of templates for your most common notifications, make sure they're going out and they're all consistent. Pilot the tools and measure the results. Make sure you are actually seeing the benefit out of doing this. Is your failure to appear rate reducing and things like that? And as you're seeing the benefit, expand that over time. Any more questions?